There's a place most people have never heard of. A village that existed, and then didn't. In 1930, deep in the snowy wilderness of northern Canada, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle arrived at a small Inuit settlement called Angikuni Lake. He had visited before. He knew the people. Families. Fishermen. Hunters. But this time, something was wrong. Dead quiet. Not a single person in sight. Joe called out. No answer. He walked through the snow-packed streets, past abandoned fishing nets, empty dog sleds, and untouched cabins with meals still sitting on tables, as if people had just vanished mid-bite. No signs of struggle. No tracks in the snow leading away from the village. Even the sled dogs, dead, frozen in their harnesses, left to starve. Joe's skin prickled. He knew something unnatural had happened here. The local Mounties would later confirm, over 30 men, women, and children had disappeared, without a trace. No bodies. No clues. No explanation. And the strangest part? The entire cemetery near the village was dug up. Graves empty. Joe would later say he felt like the air itself was heavier. Like something ancient was still watching him. Whatever happened here was no ordinary disappearance. And it was only the beginning. The next morning, a small group of Mounties arrived at Angikuni Lake after receiving Joe's frantic report. These were seasoned men. Hardened by the unforgiving Canadian wild. But what they found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They confirmed it wasn't just a simple disappearance. Entire homes were left as if people had just stepped outside for a moment. Clothes hung from lines. Boats tethered at the shore. Meals left half-eaten, their contents frozen solid in the bitter cold. And then, they reached the cemetery. The graves. Every single one had been dug up. But it wasn't like someone was searching for something. The earth was neatly displaced. The graves empty, and the bodies, gone. No animal tracks. No human footprints. As if the ground itself had opened up and swallowed them whole. The Mounties stood in stunned silence. And then, one of them pointed out something else. A single, enormous footprint in the snow. Twice the size of a man's foot. Not human. Not bear. No known animal in these woods made a mark like that. It led to the edge of the tree line. And stopped. No trail beyond it. Just endless, untouched snow. Rumors would later swirl of ancient spirits, forest giants, and vengeful entities from Inuit legend. Joe LaBelle, watching from a distance, swore he felt eyes on him the entire time. Like something unseen, lurking just beyond the trees. Waiting. And in that moment, they knew this wasn't a crime. It was something much older. And far more terrifying. As night fell over the empty village, the Mounties set up camp. They didn't want to, but traveling back through the frozen wilderness in the dark was suicide. Around the fire, no one spoke much. The silence of the place gnawed at them. No wolves howling. No wind through the trees. Just an eerie, unnatural stillness. Then, just after midnight, the sky above Angikuni Lake came alive. Strange lights. Pale blue and green orbs, hovering in perfect silence. Not like the northern lights, no rippling curtains of color. These were solid, deliberate, moving in unnatural patterns. One of the Mounties, a man named Duncan McNeil, swore he saw the lights descend into the trees near the old cemetery. Others claimed they heard voices in a language they couldn't understand, coming from the woods. Joe LaBelle refused to leave his tent. He knew the old Inuit legends. Of sky spirits that came down in the winter, claiming the living, erasing them from the land of the living, and dragging them to a place no one dared name. By dawn, one of the Mounties had vanished. His gear, his rifle, everything still in place. But he was gone. No footsteps in the snow. No sign of struggle. As if the night itself had swallowed him. That morning, they made a pact: no one would speak of what they saw. And they would burn the village to the ground. But some things refused to stay buried. As dawn cracked the horizon, the surviving Mounties prepared to leave. Their nerves frayed. Faces pale. No one slept. No one spoke of the missing man. But before they could strike the last tent, it happened again. A faint, melodic humming from the trees. Soft. High-pitched. Like a lullaby sung by a voice older than memory. The youngest Mountie, a boy barely 19, turned his head sharply toward the sound. His eyes glazed over. A crooked smile crept across his face. And before anyone could move, he bolted into the tree-line. They called after him. Chased him. But no one could find him. No footprints. Nothing. It was as if the forest swallowed him whole. Joe LaBelle muttered under his breath, "They're claiming them, one by one." And then, the forest answered. A low, guttural growl. Not from an animal. Not from any man. From every direction at once. The Mounties raised their rifles. But deep down, they knew. Bullets wouldn't save them from whatever ancient thing had claimed this place. That evening, the fire wouldn't catch. Their compasses spun wildly. The temperature plummeted to unnatural lows. And in the dim, blue dusk, something moved between the trees. Tall. Pale. Eyes like burning coals. A figure the old Inuit tales called Tornarsuk, the taker of the lost. One of the Mounties collapsed where he stood, his hair turned bone white in an instant. It was no longer a question of what happened to the villagers. The only question was, who would be next? By the second nightfall, only 3 men remained. Joe LaBelle, Duncan McNeil, and an older Mountie named Harris. They agreed on one thing: no one else would die here. They packed their things in silence, leaving behind the rest. No prayers. No markers. Just empty cabins, dead sled dogs, and the eerie, half-melted footprints of something that did not belong to this world. But before they left, Harris did something strange. He walked to the center of the empty village. Kneeled in the snow. And spoke in a language Joe didn't recognize, a string of harsh, ancient syllables. When he finished, the wind picked up. For the first time in days. And from the distant trees, a shape retreated. Fading into the forest. Harris stood and turned, his face expressionless. "It's done." No one asked what he meant. They left before dawn, traveling by moonlight, never looking back. When they finally reached the nearest outpost, Joe LaBelle gave a simple report. "The village is gone. Nothing more." No one believed them. Official records claim Angikuni Lake was a ghost story. A folktale. A rumor twisted by time. But here's the part no one tells you. Every winter since, strange lights have been seen dancing over the frozen lake. Travelers vanish in the snow. And sometimes, an old, half-buried cabin is found where no village should exist. Inside, a half-eaten meal, a kettle still warm, and no one to be found. And the strangest part? Joe LaBelle vanished a year later. His cabin left untouched. His rifle by the door. A half-carved piece of wood still resting in his hand. They say the forest calls its own. And if you ever find yourself by Angikuni Lake, and the air turns too still, and the sky hums, don't answer. Because some places remember.